Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with a review of a new psychological horror film, independent film, from director Yorgos Lanthimos, the absolute fucking madman, mind you, behind last year's The Lobster, which made my best horror films of the year list. I think it was I know it was high up on the list. Even though that film technically wasn't a horror film, I felt it was dark enough to justify putting it on there, and I felt it had a decent amount of psychological kind of thriller horror elements to it to put it on the list. He's also the man who directed a little movie from 2009 called Dogtooth. Dogtooth being a film from his home country, Greece. He's a Greek director. It's a Greek film about a family essentially living in this house in isolation, and all of the kids, mind you, I say kids, but they're actually like teenagers and young adults in the house, don't know anything about the outside world, and they're taught new words every day by their parents, and they're not allowed to leave until their dog teeth, as in dog tooth. They're inside. I think it's a fucking. I think they're called the canines. That's what they're called. Their canines actually fall out. And this movie is also a very dark kind of comedy, drama, psychological horror thriller, with elements of incest and domestic abuse and all the kinds of other shit. And the film is basically just one big attack on traditional family values versus more kind of liberal and or less conservative family values, I should say, against the new morals, the new values of the world versus the old ones. So tonight we have his newest movie, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This is technically Yorgos Lanthimos' first horror film. I say technically because I would consider The Lobster and Dogtooth to be horror films, but not everybody does, and not many people do at all, actually. But so this is technically his first film within the genre. The Killing of a Sacred Deer is essentially a film about a brilliant cardiologist, a brilliant heart surgeon, who takes a young man under his wing, and this young man his mother is poor, his father's dead, and he wants to become a cardiologist just like this doctor character, Steven. This teenage boy, Martin, turns out to be kind of fucked in the head, and shit goes downhill, and it gets crazy and fucked up. I don't know really how to explain this movie because I don't want to spoil it, like, even in the slightest. So I'm going to say right now that if you are interested in this film, you should go see it. And I mean actually go see it in the theater, because when I say that this film is legitimately creepy and it was unsettling and it made me feel uneasy. When I say these things, I'm talking about seeing this film theatrically in a big, dark, empty theater. I feel like watching this film on streaming in your living room in broad daylight might not live up to the hype I'm about to fucking give it. So please take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. And if your local art house theater is showing this film, or your local AMC might be showing this, I know there's a couple AMCs that are actually showing it, go check it out. Just go see it. It's very, very good. It's well worth your time. Now, on to the actual review. The acting in the film is very, very good. I think everybody turns in a really good performance. Colin Farrell stars as Steven, and he puts in a very good performance. And Nicole Kidman stars as Steven's wife, their character name I cannot remember for the life of me. And she does a very good job as well. Nicole Kidman's also pretty good. Same with Colin Farrell. The actor who was the disturbed teenage boy, Martin, he did a fantastic job of making his character perfectly creepy and uneasy and just, like, off. Like, you can tell there's something off about this kid from the very moment you see him. Not the moment he talks, not the moment he says a certain line in the film. The moment I saw him, I knew this guy has got something going on. He's off just a little bit. Off kilter. The writing in the film is very good, which is common with Yorgos Lanthimos' films. Oh my fucking god, I'm yawning too much for this. The film's well-paced, well-written, well-acted. The fucking cinematography is some of the best I've seen in a horror film since The Witch, mind you. It's very good, very Kubrickian. You can tell very much that Yorgos loves Stanley Kubrick, because the camera work is very, very Kubrickian. The use of music and sound is also very, very good. The music in the film is absolutely fucking horrifying, I would say. It's on par with the music from Under the Skin, how that music was very, very, like, creepy, unsettling, otherworldly, and it made you uncomfortable. And this film is very much that. It's a very uncomfortable, very unsettling, very, very, not pleasant movie, I would say. I don't really know what else to fucking say about this movie. It's great, and it's a very good theatrical experience. If you do have the chance to see it at your local art house theater or whatever theater that's playing it, I would highly recommend you go check it out, especially if you are a fan of Yorgos' other films. If you liked The Lobster, you'll probably like this one. This one isn't as creative as The Lobster, and it isn't as darkly comedic as The Lobster, although there are some dark comedy and surrealist humor elements in the film that really, I think, help make the film a lot more enjoyable. Keep in mind, if you're into more into mainstream cinema, you probably won't like this movie. It's definitely Yorgos' most mainstream movie so far, and I would say it's probably his best movie so far, at least my favorite movie from him so far. But at the same time, it's still a very non-mainstream movie. There's elements to it that people will not really, that a mainstream general audience might not not really get or understand, but they might not appreciate as much as people who enjoy art films do, or as people who enjoy cult films do. That being said, I think I've covered most of it. The film is very well paced as well, I should mention. There's a bit, it drags a little towards the middle, just a little bit, but that does not drag my rating or my appreciation of the film down at all. I was so completely interested and engaged in the film the entire time. And, goddamn, if I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna say it. This is probably one of the best, obviously, one of the best horror films since The Witch. I wouldn't say it's as amazing as The Witch, because The Witch really, just was a horrific experience theatrically. This film was definitely not as kind of creepy, unsettling, atmospheric, but it was still very, very creepy, very unsettling. I want to say kind of like off-putting, gross, uneasy, unnerving. Those are the words I would use to describe this film, very much so. Shit, I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's really great, and I've said that multiple times. On the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like Nosferatu, 10 being something like Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, The Killing of a Sacred Deer sits at probably a 2. I heard about this film being very, very gory and violent, but, and I would say there's definitely some pretty brutal physical violence in the film, but it's not the most violent movie ever. I would argue that there was definitely more violence and gore in Dogtooth and The Lobster. In conclusion, it's a great movie, very good theatrical experience, and I think it's a movie that you should that if you are into these kinds of movies, you should really take the time out of your day and try to find a screening whenever you can and go see it, because it's like, I mean, I'm sure if you watch it on home media, it will still be a great film, but I feel like my experience with it and my opinion of it is elevated a little bit more because I had the chance to experience it theatrically. It's a great movie, and I'm gonna go ahead and fucking say it. It's a new horror classic. It is easily, at least in my opinion, the best horror film of the year so far. It's one of the first horror films this year that I'm actually going to give a perfect 10 out of 10. This movie was legitimate art, and it should be appreciated as such. That being said, that's all I have for today, ladies and gentlemen. This is Biscaboo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.